I like an interactive audience, by the way. I'm interacting, we'll interact. It's going to be a very, very relaxing, fun session. And I'm super excited to introduce my wonderful panel. And we're going to be talking about AI in Dublin specifically. Is my lovely panel ready to come up? So I'd love to introduce Shana, Brenda, and Alan. Come on, take a seat. Take a seat, everybody. And yes, perfect. Take a seat under your thing. All right. So thank you so much for joining. This is a panel for AI founders in Dublin specifically. I'd love to know in the audience, put your hands up if you're a founder. I know we did this, but we've had a shuffle. Okay, I see a few founders. Hands up if you're an investor. Actually, can't really see. Okay, hands up if you're an ecosystem player. I expect to see all hands up. I love that phrase. I just learned it earlier, ecosystem player. I think we're all ecosystem players, aren't we, deep down? Yeah. So anyway, now we know who you are. We'd love to introduce ourselves a little bit more properly. So how about you just take some time to introduce yourself and what you do, and why don't we start with you, Shana?
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Shana, and I'm the CEO and founder of Tailr. And Tailr is using AI to predict fabric behavior for the fashion production supply chain. So we remove inconsistencies, especially regarding sizing.
Super interesting. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brenda Jordan, and I'm the founder and CEO of Sobi Analytics. So Sobi stands for Strategic Optimized Business Insights. So my background is in accountancy, and I brought that experience into Sobi, where we gather information from right across the business. So we take the financials, the CRM, the payroll, all into one place. And what we actually do is analyze and deliver real-time insights to the business owner to help them make decisions about their business today that impact tomorrow. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Hi, Asia. Hello, everybody. My name is Alan Smeaton. I'm a professor of computing at Dublin City University. My children often tell me that I should never give anybody career advice because I've only ever had one job. But the job has changed so much, especially in the last 18 months. And in the last 18 months, there's been more change than in the previous 30-something years. I picked up a phrase from the previous panel, AI washing. And the stuff I was doing in the past on machine learning and on computer vision and on machine learning algorithms, that's now being AI washed. I've been working in AI for 20 years. I can now say that.
Incredible. Well, I'm sure we can go into that later with the questions. I'll introduce myself quickly. So I don't have a badge, but I'll get one later. My name's Asia Lindsay. I'm the AI lead for the Startup Success team at Google Cloud. And what does that mean? Basically, my job is to bring startups the best of Google and help them grow. And it's a very fulfilling role. I'm from Hong Kong originally, so that's how you can remember the name Asia, a bit random. I've been living in Ireland for just over a year now, and I'm learning Irish. So, Gia Ditch and Conas Ata too. I'm trying. Yeah, what else? So I've been at Google for 5 years and working in the tech startup ecosystem for 10 years. And sort of related, I started my career at TED Talks, where I think I really kind of got that like entrepreneurship bug, started learning about AI, and then was hungry for more. So, you know who we are. Let's get on with some questions, shall we? So, maybe this one could be good for Shana. Given the rapid pace of AI advancements, how do you future-proof your company and its AI initiatives to make sure that you stay ahead of the curve?
I think it's really important to be really flexible with what you're building and the infrastructure that you're using. So when I'm scaling my tech team, I do like to have multidisciplinary, making sure that we have everything kind of covered across the team, different sectors, different roles, lots of different experience, whether it's AI or data or cyber, making sure that we have each section covered. And this is a little bit out there, but networking in different tech events is really important because there's so much happening that you really need to know like what is the new tech that's out there, especially like working with like colleges. There's a lot coming out of there. And then being really lean in that if there is something that's out there that you're like, that could be really cool, actually integrated with what we're doing. So having that flexibility to be able to integrate with different APIs and different systems. So flexibility, being able to integrate and then having different team members, I think is really important for that.
I love that. Variety is a spice of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's actually, I remember reading years ago that if you worked for Google, that a certain percentage of your time could be for experimentation.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved that. So we have implemented that at Tailr, where we've set everyone actually, not even just for tech. So anyone who works for Tailr, they have a certain percentage of time where they can work on whatever they want to experiment in different areas. And that has brought some really cool creativity to the team, because it gives them, like, we're at that stage where we're scaling and we're doing a lot of heavy work. So that breathing space of the experimenting enables them to get back to creativity. So it's really great for them as well, because it just releases the stress a little.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, we do have that at Google. It's called a 20% project. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Gmail was a 20% project. It wasn't? Oh, I think it was. And if it wasn't, there have been a lot of amazing things that have come out of the 20% projects, and just having that ability to fly without fear and to mess around. There's a lot that's very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I read it years ago, I was like, if I ever eventually start a company, I'm going to do that. So yeah, I literally did it.
And here we are. I love that. I'm just curious, you mentioned networking and events. And this could go to anyone here. What events and networking do you recommend in Dublin?
So I'll go first. So it's not even just in Dublin. It's really important to get outside as well. It's really important to get to, different areas, different jurisdictions, because you have to hear different people's insights. I was at an event in London, and it was a fashion tech event. And there was this guy there, and he was like, oh, I'm creating this, this AI that turns line drawings into 3D design. And I was like, really? And he showed it to me, and now we're partnering to integrate it, because I was like, this is amazing. So that's why I'm saying you have to get out and network and see what's out there, because you don't know what that partnership or potential partnerships can lead to.
100%. And I hope you're all keeping this in mind. And after this, there's going to be a break. And I encourage you all to set yourself a goal, find 5 people, make 5 new friends, go network. It's good to have goals. Did you want to add something on it?
Well, I networking is yeah, that's a really great suggestion. And one thing I would add to that is actually networking within your own industry as well, because part of, I think, researching AI, I think what goes hand in hand with that is actually understanding and uncovering where AI fits in your own sector, in your own industry. So it's actually talking to people who are out there and looking and saying, how are you doing this at the moment? Or you're doing it that way? Would this help if we did it that way? And you're quite right, looking even at your competitors, looking at what's actually going on, keeping your research going, keeping an eye on the market and saying, what is actually going on out there? And how can we embrace part of that in our solution to our client base? It's very, very important, because it's going so fast, right? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Alan, I'm sure you can add to the speed of it.
The speed of it has been phenomenal, and as a researcher, networking is part of our modus anyway. So we go to conferences, and whether they're big conferences with 10,000 people or conferences which are sold out within a couple of hours, like the neural information processing one is it's like a U2 concert. It's literally sold out within hours, because they have a limit of only 12,000 people can go to that, to a much smaller event with maybe 50. So networking is part of what we do in research anyway. But especially within the last 18 months, the amount of non-academic, non-research events that I've been going to, like this kind of thing, has absolutely skyrocketed. And that's because of the speed of developments. The number of pivots, the number of U-turns, the number of roundabouts that have happened, it's almost every week there's something new. And that really keeps us on our toes.
It's a very exciting time at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And you've got me all excited for the networking now. Let's move on to another question. So this is more about data, so perhaps for one of you two. But as AI startups scale, challenges will arise in terms of data management, scalability, and interoperability. Quite hard to say. Obviously, I think you've both dealt with this. So can you share some advice on how an AI founder should approach these kind of problems?
Okay, if I start?
Go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of data management, clearly, you know, you have to have controls or processes in place to make sure that the data is clean. If you're taking bad data in, you know what, you're going to be getting bad data out. So that is actually, that's something that's really, really important. Now, how we have dealt with that, because clearly we're taking accountancy data and we're taking, you know, other data in from third-party sources, right? And so how we've dealt with that is in terms of the partners that we have selected. So we work with accountants and we work with firms whose job it is to clean the data. Right. So therefore we're saying, okay, we know that data that's coming in, that it's timely, that it's reconciled, that it's complete. So that's kind of the first one, to make sure that it's clean. You also need to make sure that it's complete, you know, that you've got everything in there. You need to make sure that it's compliant. So there's a whole load of different things. And you also need to obviously make sure that the system that you're building allows the expansion of that data. So it's built, you know, be it a modular kind of an architecture that you're building your system on, that you're actually able to take in additional modules, take in a different information. But actually getting that information right, getting it clean, sustainable, are probably the first ports of call, certainly for us. Yeah.
Yes, makes sense.
And once you've got that data, then you would then host that on one of a number of platforms with one of a number of partners. And it is not too traumatic to move from one partner to another partner. So you're not sort of wedded for life. You can easily move from one to another. And if you're using generative AI in any of its forms, then one of the principles of which generative AI works is that there's a basic or a foundational model. And for using that, then again, you need to have probably the same big tech company partner. And whether it's Google or Microsoft or OpenAI or Anthropic, whoever it might be, it's that company's responsibility to ensure the correctness of the training data used to build the language model. But when the EU AI Act kicks in, it is also your responsibility. So you can't just sort of pass that back upstream or downstream rather and say, oh, it's to do with the partner and the language model. That any biases or misbehaviors that seep then into your delivery are then your responsibility as well. So the management of the data used to be quite straightforward in that you just need a partner to host it and to provide cloud access. Now, especially if you're using generative AI, it is that plus more.
Very insightful. And Shana, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, so for us, the data is a little bit more different because we're building where there is actually no data in places. The fashion production supply chain is still on pen and paper. So you're trying to collate data that is in people's heads.
That sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, it is because it was like what you said, you have to make sure that the data is good. But when you're trying to test against something that people are taking out of their head, you know, it can add a layer of complexity to it. I mean, in the end, it will be amazing when it's, you know, fully tested and it's working. But at the minute, trying to get that data is very interesting. So we're working with different partners across the industry. So far, the best for data is actually the fabric mills. So while it's still unstructured, it's a lot easier to structure that data. And there's quite a lot of data that we're ingesting from fabric mills. One fabric mill that has only about 14,000 fabric, it was about 26.5 million data points that we ingested. So that was quite good for a fabric mill.
Yeah, very impressive. Such an interesting challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is a challenge.
Keeping you on your toes. All right, well, thank you so much. Moving on to other uses of AI. This is a bit of an interesting question. So do you think that eventually all tech startups need to incorporate AI into their products? And why or why not?
I'll start with that one.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So, although we all recognize that AI is seeping into all areas of technology, I would think that there's still areas that probably don't need it, certainly yet. Okay. And so where I would be coming from with that is I'd say, okay, the main purpose of AI is to handle large amounts of large volumes of complex data that need analysis or need, structuring in some way, or that actually contribute to, a process that can perhaps be improved, through machine learning and AI. But not all technology fits that particular need. Not all technology needs it, and I would also certainly not yet. I'd say that might change. And something else I think that probably needs to be addressed is the cost of building AI. It's quite extortionate at the moment in terms of, because it's quite new. So it's getting that skill set, actually building what it is that you want to build. So I would kind of think there's a lot of, particularly maybe startups, that, actually have a vision of incorporating, AI, but actually even without it, their product is good for the market, and possibly they have a good product market fit, and they can build a really, really good business without AI. So I think there are cases, I don't think it's kind of a one size fits all. I think there are, industries, and there is technology there that it does quite well just on its own. But that's kind of for now. But I think it will become probably the norm over the next number of years. But that would be my take on it, kind of at where it stands right now. You might disagree.
Yeah, no, I'd actually divide the question into two parts. Is there an essential place and a role for AI? And I divide that into classical AI, which is used for classification and prediction, diagnostics type things, and the buzzword these days, which is generative. And the answer to both questions is not necessarily exactly as you've said. So there's a lot of hype now around, you almost need, I'm going to use that term AI washing. I only heard it this morning, but this is the second time I've used it already. So I'm getting used to it. So there's a lot of AI washing, and especially generative AI washing with products and developments, because it's good to be seen to be saying that. But that's not necessarily necessary in the application or in the startup. It's horses for courses, and it applies equally to both the generative AI application of AI and the classical or traditional AI applications.
I think if you're a startup company at the minute and you say that you're not AI, you nearly stand out more than if you say that you are AI, because it's so trendy. Every time something is trendy, not everyone, but a lot of companies do try to jump on the bandwagon a little bit. I mean, we saw it with NFTs and Web3, and now we're seeing it with AI. So from me speaking to some investors, it's kind of a case of, everyone is trying to shoehorn AI into their product somehow. And I do feel that if you are a tech company and you say, I'm not AI, you actually do stand out a little bit more. And I think because so many people are trying to put AI in their product or in their company, that there's going to be a lot more due diligence on investments as well, because there's currently investments that are going through that, there might not be proper AI applicable to that product. So I can see investors getting a lot more rigorous about due diligence for AI companies over the next couple of months.
It's interesting. I think AI fatigue could be a term here. I don't know if you watched Google I/O. We had Google I/O a couple of nights ago, and I mean, we're nothing if not, we know ourselves. Sundar, our CEO, had a little AI counter, and I think he said it 121 times, if I'm not mistaken. But he leaned into it, And we have got a lot of new AI products that have just come out for if they're right for the startup. I'm not sure if you know this, we actually have an AI tier on the Google for Startups Cloud program, where we give AI startups $250,000 in Google Cloud credits for AI. Because as you mentioned, there is a price tag. Yes. But again, we do a lot of due diligence, and it's just for startups that, cut them, they bleed AI. Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, so let's move it back to Ireland. would you say that Ireland has a supportive ecosystem for AI startups and founders? And what resources, aside from the events, would you recommend?
Let me speak initially to the skill set. And there was a great article in the IDA Ireland website a couple of weeks ago, which pointed out the various places where AI activities are carried out, from the multinationals to the smaller startups to the research centres to the government organisations. And these are all fed by our education system. So in my university, we produce 200 master students with specialisms in AI or data science. And so also do each of the other 7 universities. So if you're doing a running counter now on that then, okay, so that's every year. We also have our typical output of a couple of hundred PhDs from the universities. We also have the Science Foundation Ireland funded centres for research or technology, which are producing an additional 600 PhDs over a 4-year period. And these are kind of planned and scheduled to arrive. The week before last, we had our final year undergraduate project expo, and the number of them that were using large language models was jaw-dropping for us. And as an academic who's taught these students, I was turning to others and saying, "Where did you teach them that? No, where did they learn all of that kind of stuff?" And we asked some of them, and they said, "Well, we picked that up ourselves, but we picked it up because of the environment and the infrastructure that is available." Right, so there wasn't a course on large language models. It was picked up organically by them.
Incredible.
But the agility and the reactive nature by which they were able to incorporate things into final year projects. So in terms of your question, in terms of the support, the skill set and the volume of skilled specialists in the AI area is second to none. This morning's headlines, right? 800 jobs, IBM, all in AI over a 3-year period. So there's certainly that part of the infrastructure is in place. As to support for other supports for startups, I'll pass on to one of the others too. You're closer to that one.
Yeah, I thought you were going to mention the Insight Research Centre, because that was actually, I said I was going to mention. Yeah, that's
that's only about 400 people working in AI across all of our universities, as another example of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're there, but then I guess other supports for startups. I mean, you guys probably know most of them. Kind of Enterprise Ireland are there. I mean, our own government actually has, kind of brought in a how to get this right, data analytics or an AI policy that is to try and encourage and help the embracement, I guess, of AI. But then, of course, you've got, the IDA, you've got Enterprise Ireland, there's all kinds of grants, all kinds of supports, including mentorship and so on. And I'm trying to think what else. Then we've also got, the great kind of accelerator programs that we have, kind of Dogpatch, Further, Techstars, whatever, we kind of have a number of different ones. So in terms of, getting out there and getting the support and the help that you need, there is quite a lot out there. Now, if I've missed anything, jump in.
And just while all of our universities also have incubation centres, which are just full of AI-based startups.
I'm going to bring it back to the women.
Yes, do it.
Yeah, so in order to foster more women in tech, there's great supports like Tech Found Her, where they do run a scholarship program to try and get more women involved in tech, because that is the one reason why there is a lack of females in tech. It's to get them in from the bottom up by ensuring that they even go to college to do tech roles. That's how you can ensure that you have diversity when you're hiring, because even for me, when I'm hiring for roles, I can see that, the amount of women who will apply for that role versus the amount of men is, there's a huge difference there. So supports like Tech Found Her is really important as well.
Thank you so much. And I'm very happy you did bring women and diversity into it. I think it's a really important point. A bit off topic, this is part of an AI summit that we're running at Google, and it's kind of around Google I/O, and it's internal only aside from this, unfortunately. But when I was hiring the team, it was all women. And now I have a team of about 9 women who are running an AI summit at Google, and it's absolutely incredible. And I wasn't expecting it, actually. So
I absolutely love to hear that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'll tell you more about it later. Very happy to talk about that. Okay, so we're on to our final question, everyone, and then we'll have some audience questions, so prepare yourselves. But this kind of leads on. You've all been on journeys, quite different journeys, and you all are now successful founders, and that's incredible. How has mentorship played a part, if at all? But I'm assuming it has. Everyone has mentors. And so I'd love to hear a bit how you got that sort of support and any tips for identifying mentors and approaching them.
I think it's really good to know the difference between a good mentor and a bad mentor.
Do tell.
I think being really clear of what your strong points are and what your weak points are and what you actually need from a mentor. Sometimes people say, I need a mentor, but they're not really clear on exactly what they need or the structure or the strategy for even bringing in a mentor. So knowing the key areas of where you need help and advice and support is first and foremost the most important thing, because then you can look at your network or you can look at who you would really love as a mentor and make sure that they actually have the skills in the area that you need. So that is really, really important. And then, don't be afraid if you do bring on a mentor to remove them from said mentorship if it's not working out. Don't be afraid to say that, and find the perfect fit for you is really, really important. And having that like really open and honest conversation. Don't be afraid of criticism or constructive feedback. That's my important take on mentorship.
Yeah, thank you.
And I would obviously agree, what you're saying there. I would add a couple of things in. I think, it is important, obviously, to pick somebody who you feel can help you on your journey and help you with the skills and help you get to the next stage. But one thing, and I think it's very important to be able to listen and to learn. But I also think you need to really keep ownership and keep, to listen and learn, but actually be a little bit to your point. Be prepared to walk away or to seek other mentors if you feel that mentor is not quite getting, or they're not quite true to your vision, and they're not really buying it, and they're not really kind of there. So okay, they might be able to give you skills, but it has to feel right. I'm a great believer in following your instinct and listening to that inner voice, but I'm also a huge believer in availing of advice from people who've done it before. It saves you time, effort, money, stress. It's a good thing to avail of. And I would also kind of put in that, like, there are mentors, and how you would actually find mentors. Once more, Enterprise Ireland, Leo, Further are very, very good, obviously the Dog Patch Labs and so on, but also within your own network. I've actually found that some of the best mentors that have worked with me over the years, it would be maybe people that I would have met at maybe some of these events, particularly the women's events lately. I kind of think there's an awful lot more experienced women and successful women actually coming forward and saying to their to other women, hey, I can help you with that. I've done that. Is there something, can I help? And it's invaluable.
The teaching that I do, the research projects that I run, the students that I supervise, all of those things have an element of mentoring as part of them. So that comes in, on campus is what I do. But what I'm really happy about is that when students leave and they go elsewhere, a very large number of them still retain contact. And that's not just sort of let's connect on LinkedIn and send each other messages every now and again, but quite often they come back to me and not to reveal what they're doing or to reveal a career choice, but to have a sort of chat on what's happening and what they should be doing and what they should be focusing on. I'll give you a great example. I walked into the Google building this morning. The guy who took my registration says, "Hi, Alan. Hi. Oh, hi, how are you? You're one of thousands. I can't remember your name." But we started to talk about the work he had done using quantum computing for computer vision. Now, he's not doing that in Google, he's doing something else, but we talked about that for a while, and then we talked about where quantum computing had gone in the years since then. So that's a form of mentorship, is that there are very many students out there who still have me and other academics as a safety net that they can just reach out to, and that's quite pleasing.
That's
for
lovely.
a mentor.
And that's a very nice metric, the number of people who have actively stayed in touch with you because they want to. Like, that's a really, really wonderful thing to hear. And I think is a testament to the work you're doing.
Yeah, very fulfilling. It's very fulfilling.
Absolutely. All right, so we have time for some audience questions. And I believe we have a sort of squishy microphone that gets thrown around. Does anyone have a question? I can't actually see very well. No? I can start with another question. So this is a bit of an obvious question, but what do you wish you'd known at the start of your entrepreneurship journey?
Everything.
Right?
That's the obvious answer. There's so much, honestly. If I look back over the past few years and wrote down every single thing that I learned, it's shocking. I think the most important thing is to don't be afraid to ask for help, especially as a woman in business. I had never had a business before, so I felt like I shouldn't say that I didn't understand anything or I didn't get it, I didn't know where to go. Learning that it's actually okay to say that you don't get it and can someone explain this or can someone help me with it, that was my biggest learning, is to ask for help when you need it.
Don't ask, don't get. Yeah, very wise.
I guess my biggest learning is, it's okay to fail, right? It hurts like the clappers, but it's okay to fail. So this is actually my third business. My second business was also an analytics company, and it failed for a number of reasons, and it really, 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 really hurt. Okay, but what I learned from that experience, from the whole experience about what to do, what not to do, I brought that with me into Sobi, and it certainly has helped me to deal with, making decisions, understanding how this particular type of business works, because I had run my accountancy firm for years and then kind of went into technology. I don't know, crazy. I had a crazy moment, but anyhow, I do love it. But it's actually just realizing it is okay to fail and to take it, and it's okay, pick yourself up and go again. So I kind of think resilience and being passionate about what you're doing. And I mentioned earlier on listening to your gut. Always listen to your instinct. If something feels too good to be true, it usually is. And if something is not going well, work your way through it. Tomorrow it will get brighter. It will get better. And actually the third thing, or the fourth thing, whatever it is to manage your emotions. So I kind of think in terms of, kind of the mental health side of things. The startup journey it's a roller coaster. We all go through this roller coaster. And what I've had to learn is to kind of stay steady the whole way through it. So don't get too excited and don't get too disappointed. Stay somewhere in the middle as best as you can. Celebrate the wins, but make sure they're wins. Make sure the money is in the bank before you celebrate.
Spoken like a true founder.
All the scars.
And not from a founder's perspective, but from my perspective, when I go out cycling with my group of pals on a Sunday morning and we'd stop for a coffee and we talk about what happens during the week, and they know that the world in which I work in is constantly changing. One of them said to me a couple of weeks ago, "Do you not wish you were a professor of history?" Right? Where it stays the same and you don't have to change. And it made me think and it made me realize that working in an area which is so fast changing is exhilarating, very rewarding, exhausting, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's beautiful. All right, thank you so much. Lots of great learnings, I have to say. I almost want to write these down and send them out to people, but that's me kind of being controlling. Know thyself. So we still have time for maybe one more question, if anyone. Oh, yes, I see that gentleman in the middle there. Go, Lisa, go. Oh, and I see someone after that. Okay, wonderful.
Thank you for the session. It's been really insightful. I actually had a question regarding what you were talking about around AI being an important aspect, but not every company needs AI within it. I'd love to know from your kind of thoughts, insight, when do you think the AI buzzword is going to become less of a buzzword? Because we've seen these trends come up and die down. So.
Sorry, could you just repeat the question?
Sure. When do you think the AI buzzword is not going to be a buzzword anymore and it just becomes kind of part of the furniture?
Well, personally, I kind of think, do you want to answer that one?
Part of the furniture is the way it's going to go. We've had summers and winters from the 40s and the 50s, and we've had those huge high expectations with areas like speech recognition and machine translation, and then we realized that because we're trying to hand code these rules, and that's why it failed, and then we had renewals, and then we had all the sorts of things. And I think what we've seen is that over the decades we've seen these troughs and these peaks, but we're up there, and we're never going to drop down to here. It has been a buzzword. Generative AI who heard of generative AI except for Brian McNamee and I maybe a couple of years ago before the last 18 months. But I think it's so commonplace now. It's already part of our vocabulary. Yeah, here to stay. And in fact, the Irish National AI Strategy is here for good, which is a kind of play as in here forever and here for doing good things. So it's a nice kind of wordplay.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, who is next? Oh, over there. Okay, sorry, would you mind? Thank you.
Thanks very much. That was really interesting. You mentioned hiring people. I work in a university as well, and I was wondering, when you look to hire people for AI roles, are there any gaps you see in the knowledge and skills that people have coming out of our universities at the moment?
That's for you, I think.
So I actually haven't, this is really bad, but I actually haven't hired anyone in AI in Ireland. So for me, the gap was that the skills were there, but also was the price. And that was kind of the pitfall for me as a startup. I would have absolutely loved to have hired here in Ireland, but maybe after our next round, we can afford to do that. But the skill set here is amazing. Some of the CVs that we had received were absolutely mind-blowing. And if we had been post-raise, absolutely. I have that list and I still have those CVs. So there wasn't actually any skills that I saw that were lacking. There was such a difference between them all. It was like great to see. But yeah, it was the price. Like, I feel like engineers and AI people in Ireland can kind of write their own check.
Yeah, I actually found, we've built an MVP part onto our platform, which is generative AI driven. So it's like a chatbot allowing people to ask questions of their own data. And I outsourced that because we've only got a small internal dev team. And I, to be honest, we actually struggled to find the skills that we needed, and that's been perfectly honest. And then when we did kind of find a group that we felt was the most suitable, and we kind of wanted to do it within Ireland. We do outsource a lot of our other work kind of abroad, but I wanted it in Ireland so that I just felt I could manage it a little bit better. I could get into the car and drive to meet with the team, because it's it's brand new what we're doing in particular, what everybody is doing with it. It's new, and so there was a huge amount of kind of collaborative work that myself and my team needed to do with the group that we're building it. But I have to say we did struggle to actually get exactly what we were looking for. It took longer, it cost more. So personally, I kind of felt the skills weren't actually really out there in the market just yet. I think they're coming. I believe they're coming. But I didn't feel that they were commercially accessible just yet, quite honestly. I think we're, to actually access that, we're kind of behind the curve a little bit here.
Yeah, one of the things we hear back, and I'm in the same boat as Brian, from employers, is they really value, of all the things, of all the skills that our graduates, our PhD students and our master's students have, is they value the fact that they've had a work placement. And a stepping stone for the big hire for small companies is to take one of the PhD students, one of the 600 PhD students, and hire them as an intern for 3 months. And for that, you get a fully qualified or on the route to qualification PhD. And then that PhD student goes back to his or her university and finishes off the PhD, and then sometimes comes back again. So that's a way to buy in a small sample, like a baby step of that. And all of our CRTs have that work placement as an essential part of the PhD program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the questions. I'm afraid we're at time now, so we're going to have to wrap up. But AI is exciting, but lunch is also exciting. And that's what we have now. So I encourage you to go out and go meet some people. And of course, you three will be there as well. So you'll be available for more questions, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
After we've eaten, of course.
naturally, of course, business critical. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And thank you to my lovely panelists. It was so interesting.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.